Take a deep
They
breath.
say you should
Page
blink.
9.
We're going to be on
To
page
adjust to the three levels, you blink in between when you're going.
105.
To get used to it.
Record to get going.
Because like
I might
sometimes
have
I'm
to
like,
push this again. Here we go. 1 second, I'm just thinking. 1 second.
one of those are lemons.
All right.
from my tree, because Susan brought
All right.
a bunch up here.
Are we ready?
Page?
Okay, 105. Okay, so what have we been talking about last week? Okay? There's a huge debate among the Hasidim and the Misnagdim. This was at the time. We learned what Hasidim were, followers of the Baal Shem Tov and all of his disciples. And then the Misnagdim, which means Misnaged, Neged, which means against, the againsters,
Negate.
To negate.
the againstanators. Okay? Okay? So then there were the Hasidim. It's interesting how each one called each other their names. It happens a lot of times. In other words, the Misnagdim called the Hasidim Hasidim. They didn't say, we're Hasidim,
they're
right?
like
Because
just
Hasidim
coming up with
means
these
literally
names and
godly, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Hasidim are referred to as a Talmudic expression for someone who's a Hasid, which is a really godly man.
Right.
So, of course, the Misnagdim want to put down that group, so they go Hasidim, okay? And, of course, the Hasidim called those people who didn't like them Misnagdim, againsters, okay? Okay, now because it all was founded basically on this, that the followers of the Baal Shem Tov held that God is infusing all of creation, every single moment, with godliness, okay? And that means, that, of course, the way that the Misnagdim and their leaders and their rabbis would look at that is, what are you saying, God is the rock? God forbid you would say God is the rock, or God is the stone, and God is the stick. God forbid you should say that, right? And it all comes from what we learned before, what we had by the tzimtzum, which means the constriction, where God, when it went up on his simple mind to make a creation, he constricted himself, right, from one simple point, where he made what's called a vacated space, that was in the shape of a sphere, okay? And then when he withdrew himself from one simple point in a shape of a sphere, and then he drew one simple line, one concentrated line, going from the light of the infinite into the vacated space, right, towards the center point. So here we had very abstract geometrical kind of figures, and we're going like, well, how do you understand that? Is it literal? Like he made a vacated space, and it's a literal vacated space? And God is way out there, and we are the whole universe and all of its expansiveness. He's not here. He's way out there. And then there's some kind of line which they understand that's God's divine providence. Or no, he's out there and he's in here. In other words, the vacated space, all of this geometrical, this abstract design is just conceptual. It's not literal. Was the contraction literal or not literal? Question.
Yes, so the sitzum, the veil of consciousness, as you're going up the beam, as your consciousness is rising up through the
So you're
sphere,
already looking at it's not literal. You're giving
No.
consciousness, when you're saying
It's a veil of
consciousness,
consciousness.
so you're already going towards the view or the understanding that it is not literal. You're giving it a question based on it not literal. Correct?
Yeah.
Good, go on.
Okay, so is the zitzum the boundaries of that, the bounds of the understanding of creation? Because you can't go beyond the zitzum because that's the limits of our consciousness.
Okay.
As we're going up the
If
gradient.
if a person, let's say, conceptually were to reach that place, he would zap back into infinity and would not exist.
And he would be outside his zitzum.
If you would look at it like that, but then again, literally, what we're going to see, within even the vacated space, God is also there.
Yeah.
He's there,
It's
he's
just
there, it's just a concept. It's not literal, which means, really, and we're going to understand, and now the Baal Tanya gave two reasons why you cannot say the contraction is literal. One, the Rambam, 2 points that he brings from the Rambam, Maimonides, in his principles, essential principles of faith. One was you can't attribute a body nature to God, right? You cannot attribute God has body parts and he has a space is associated with him. Like, what are you going to say? He's outside there. He's not. That you can't attribute bodily space to him. That was one idea, and then there was the other thing about God's knowledge. God knows everything from just knowing himself, which means it's not like the way we absorb knowledge. We absorb knowledge. Knowledge is out there, right? And then we absorb it, and then it becomes part of us, right? God doesn't have that kind of structure, God forbid, about him. He knows everything. So the implication of to understand the contraction literally, which means God's out there, and he has to look in there to find out what's going on, meaning it's something that's outside of him, okay? The knowledge of what are the little people doing on earth. Let's check out earth today, right? Right? So he has to go there and, oh, okay. So then, no, it doesn't work like that. God doesn't work like that, where his knowledge is internally, intrinsically part of his essence. He knows everything. So to say that, so that was why we can't understand it literally, but now he's going to get into the non-literal. And how do we really get into understanding what it means by that the constriction is non-literal. So he says, points here, if you have on your sheet here, very top, he brings verses from the Tikkun Zohar. The Tikkun Zohar first place says this unbelievable line, so meditative, okay? He says, V'zeh she'amar, and this is what it says, B'tikkunim Tikkun Nun Zayin, Tikkun 57. Delays asar panui mine. There is no place devoid of him. Be'ilain v'lo b'tata'in. Not in the upper and not in the lower. That's one just phrase. There is no, like my dad says, there's no spot where God is not. So you're saying, not in the upper, not in the lower. There is no spot where God is not. Okay? And now he brings another proof, another place in the Zohar, Barai Mehemna. Now the Rai Mehemna, you'll see, what does Rai Mehemna literally mean? Faithful shepherd. A lot of times in the Zohar, when they get together, the group would get together. It was a very mystical gathering every time these guys would get together. And the souls from heaven would come and visit them and teach them, and the angels were coming around, and it was like every single moment in the Zohar is an event. The Rai Mehemna is the faithful shepherd, is Moses. So the spirit of Moses would be there, and he would share with them stuff all the time, right? So the Rai Mehemna, which means the faithful shepherd, which is always referred to as Moses, Moshe Rabbeinu. On the portion of Pinchas, this is the parsha of the Zohar, it says this, Ihu tafis b'kula, he grasps everything, v'leisman de tafis be, and there's nobody that grasps him. In other words, he's got it all, and nobody can grasp him. Ihu, and these are classic lines, you have to understand this. Ihu, sovev kol alamin, he, and if you have it in your book, right, underline it, okay? He encompasses all worlds. V'leisman de tafik mirashusei, and there's no one that goes out from his reshus. Levar ihu. Okay, levar, nobody goes outside of his domain. Ihu memale kol alamin, he fills all worlds. Okay? He fills all worlds, meaning he binds and unites a kind to its kind, upper with lower, and there is no closeness in the four elements, only through the Holy One, blessed be he. He is within them, okay? He is within them, period, okay? So now he's going to get into an explanation of this passage in the Zohar, okay? But the Iker points that we have to always use, and the phrase that the Chabad tradition always, they use this as part of their jargon, that they'll always pull it out, that really he surrounds all worlds and he fills all worlds. Already you get an idea of what they mean, what it means by that. Okay? Surrounding all worlds, if we understand that Tzimtzum and that geometrical concept of the sphere, that the light of the infinite is around it, and then when you understand the kav, the line, the ray that extends into the Tzimtzum, that's filling all worlds. You have surrounds and filling. The question is, how do we understand surround, filling? If God is one and there's no space where he is not, what's going on here? Okay? What is this surrounding? Why do we need these words? Okay? He surrounds and he fills. Okay? So, here he goes. The meaning of none... Okay, let's look here on page 105 for those who have the book. Okay? Yeah, in this book here. Sorry. Yeah, you got it. All right. The Tanya will offer an extended commentary on this passage from the Zohar. The two general points require elaboration. None can grasp him. That is, why is God's light energy not influenced by the world? And then there's the other part of the phrase, he grasps all. God grasps everything. Well, how does God's light, his energy, create and influence the world? Okay, so from one aspect, he's not influenced by whatever goes on. He still is him, independent, not influenced. And yet he completely creates and influences everything. Okay? How does it work? Only it's a one-way street. Okay? Within each of these areas, two specific explanations are required, corresponding to God's two types of light. One is called transcendent, undiminished light energy, which encompasses all worlds. Sovev kol alamin, surrounding. Okay? That's called the transcendent, undiminished. And then there's B, the immanent, vastly diminished light, which fills all worlds. Those are the two types that we have to get. Unfiltered versus filtered. Okay? Unclothed versus clothed. Okay? Dressed versus undressed. Okay? So now, putting all this together, he has four issues that he wants to clarify. 1A is, why is God's transcendent, undiminished light energy, which encompasses all worlds, not grasped by the world? Why can't we grasp it? And B, why is God's immanent, diminished light, which fills all worlds, not grasped by the world with which it interacts with and fills it? Why can't we grasp that? We can't grasp this. We can't grasp this. Okay? And leads other questions here. How does God's transcendent, undiminished light, which encompasses all worlds, nevertheless it influences, and it grasps the world which it transcends? And then there's 2b, God's immanent, his diminished light, which fills all worlds, right? How does that grasp the world which it does fill? Okay? In other words, everything, God is grasping everything, whether it's sovev or filling, okay? And yet it's not influenced in either way, okay? So through the remainder of this chapter, the Tanya will address each one of these four questions systematically, okay? So, how does it mean that none grasp him? Okay, so here, look at the text here. Go back into this sheet that I have for you here, because it's just simpler. The meaning of none can grasp him is that there is no one, even amongst the supernal intelligences, the highest of the highs, the highest angels, or entities in the spiritual realm, who can grasp with his intellect the essence and the being of the Holy One, blessed be He, as it is written in the Tikkun Zohar, right? Hidden one of all hidden, and no thought can grasp you at all. Okay, this is a great meditation. I use this all the time. Okay, that the Hebrew is that. Let me just look at it. I don't think it brings it here. Oh. Stima de kol stimin, hidden of all hiddens, v'lech machshava tevisa b'chlal. Actually, this is in the Petach to Eliyahu. There's this little introduction, the second introduction to Tikkun Zohar. It's in the introduction to every Sephardic siddur. And every little Sephardic boy, by the time they're very early, is trained to learn this. Before they pray, they say this every single time. Mincha, Ashachrit, and Mincha.
What do they say?
And they know it Baal Peh. The Petach to Eliyahu is Eliyahu basically comes amongst the whole group of the Zohar. The soul is there, and he gives this unbelievable prayer, and it's mamish the and it sets a person's focus in terms of what they're connecting to when they pray. Okay? And within that prayer is God, as Eliyahu was making this prayer. Okay? It's written down. It's in all the prayer books. They know it bal peh. I've been in the Sid and Sephardic shul. I was in the Sephardic shul in Israel, and they know it bal peh while they're snorting tobacco, eating bamba, and signaling to the other guy to be quiet. Right? They're mumbling it. I'm going, what are they mumbling? I said to my father-in-law, Petach Eliyahu, right here. They all know it, right, from day one. Right? And I'm like, look at this, and I'm going, oh my gosh, this is so deep. And one of the ideas, the line that he says here, you are hidden amongst all the hidden. There is no thought that can grasp you. There is no thought. How do they translate it? None can grasp him, really.
Right.
The way that it's worded here is leis machshava tefisa bachlal. In other words, God, the person is in front of God in the moment there, and he says there is no thought that can grasp you. If you just think about that for a minute, that here we are surrounded by the Ein Sof, the light of the infinite, and here you are standing, sitting in front of no thought can grasp you. There's no thought that can contain you. He's beyond any thought. As soon as you get a thought, he's not it. That's not it. Okay? No matter what thought you have, Ein Sof is great, but he's beyond that as well. Okay? There's no thought that can contain you. Okay? So not even the spiritual entities in the highest realm, in terms of God's essence, forget it. You can't. No one's going to be able to grasp the infinite isness of the universe that no one made. If you just think about that a lot of times, and you just meditate on that, no one made him. Because usually that blows people away, right? No one made God, right? It was just in all there is, that no one created. He's always existed. No one made him. And no thought can contain him. And you just try to put yourself into that framework, okay? Even the highest realms. So when we say, okay, in terms of the idea of none can grasp him, that means nothing can grasp him. No one can grab his essence, okay? And even in the lower worlds, although he fills all worlds, Mamale kol alamin, he is not as the soul of man within his body, which is grasped within the body to the extent that it is affected and influenced by bodily changes and its pain. Think about that for a minute. We have a soul in our body, and here he's saying, and he's alluded to, that the soul is influenced by what the body goes through. Okay? The idea really simply that hits me, amazing, that the pain that the body goes through, the soul is influenced by that. Because why? It's a kapara. It's an atonement. It's a cleansing. The soul is affected by what the body goes through. Okay? The most, what do you call it? Expressed thing is, if the body don't eat, the soul leaves the body. They asked that, right? The Arizal said, those guys, what can we do? There's people who says, well, what feeds the soul then? What is the food of the soul? Because it doesn't make sense. If the soul is totally spiritual, it shouldn't need food. And yet, if a body does not eat for an extended period of time, the soul leaves the body. Why should the soul leave the body just because the body doesn't eat? The soul is influenced by the body, okay? Whatever the body goes through, pain, right? Whatever changes, it does affect the soul, okay? They are kind of a bizarre partnership. As a matter of fact, they say, after a person dies, right, there's the whole chibut kever meeting. We've spoken about this before, the grave smacking, right? Right? Where all of a sudden, when the last sniveling, last of kin leaves the grave, right, all of a sudden, there's a complete metamorphosis that goes on, the way that is explained from the souls that have left and have come back and taught us. All of a sudden, there's an interview that goes on, right? Imagining all of a sudden the space of the grave extends, you're put in a chair, and the soul is put into your body, and then there's somebody who asking you for there's an angel comes and asks you your name. what is your name? And you go, I don't know my name. What is your name? And you go, you know that I don't know my name. Your name, please, right? And I don't know why he's a German accent, maybe. Because he goes, Name, right? Mm-hmm. So angels come and basically hold a person by four ends and basically shake it out of you, right? They don't shake the name out of you. They have to shake the schmutz out of the body. Why does the soul have to come back into the body for this whole meeting? So the Gemara basically says quite clearly, the simple...
Has to be accountable.
Because each one blames the other, right? It's like the parable of the
blind
man and the cripple.
Very good. The cripple and the blind man, right? A man has a blind and a cripple to watch the orchard, and all of a sudden there's fruit missing, right? And he goes, who stole it? I'm blind. How could I possibly steal? And the lame guy, I can't move. What are you talking about? He takes the lame man, puts him on the shoulders of the blind man. You guys are moving pretty good now, right? So, busted. Okay? So basically the soul and the body saying they worked together to do whatever, right? So basically don't say that the soul is not influenced by the body. They work together. There's some kind of...
But why did he forget his name?
There's a different name. Everybody has a second name.
Oh, there's another name.
It's called the husk name. The name of your klipa. The name of your shell. That's what you have to find your whole life. You have to pray, please God, tell me the name of that husk. Right?
Oh my God.
Tell me the name of my corn husk. Corn husk, give me the name. Right? And if you know the name,
How did he find
they
it?
let you go. Okay? That's all we wanted. Thank you very much. Sign on the dotted line. We're gone. Let's go. Right? But if you don't know the name, they got to do the shake, razzle, dazzle.
And then you know it?
If you know the name.
But does shaking help you know it?
No shaking helps you. No
Well,
shaking.
So what do you do?
Pray, Hashem, please
You
give
know
me
the
the...
name?
No! No! Okay? Of course, if you're a total tzaddik, then of course you're all the molecules of your body have been completely metamorphosized to be vibrating at such a high spiritual level where I don't even think they come and visit you. They can't even see you. Okay? And of course, if you're buried on Erev Shabbat after midday, you're also saved from chibut hakever, from the smacking of the grave. I told you this before. We went over this, didn't we?
Yeah.
All you guys remember this?
Couple times.
Right? Of course, and if you eat the fourth meal, too. If you have the fourth meal, you're also saved from grave smacking. Fourth meal is the Saturday night. You got to have a couple slices of pizza, even though I'm so full, I ate so much on Shabbos. Right? You're also saved. So the Baal Shem Tov quickly, just to do this quickly, to go over this. To save one from this. What does it mean? You can't make a reservation to be buried on Friday afternoon. You can't. It doesn't work like that, right? Right, right. So what he says is someone who's memiz be'erev Shabbat, who dies, he's memit al tzarchei Shabbat be'erev Shabbos. In other words, he works hard for the needs of Shabbat. For the needs of Shabbos, he works hard on Friday to the point where he's dead. On Erev Shabbos. On Erev, I can't do it anymore. I go to a Sephardic shul, they say Shabbat, and then if I get the Ashkenaz, the other half of the other street, I go, good Shabbos. Right? So now I've got him so confused, I can't even say it right. Okay? Someone who's memis Erev Shabbos on the for the needs of Shabbos, right? That's what's called dying Erev Shabbos. Okay? But I don't know if it works for a one-time deal. Right? So the idea here is I've got a little trick that might help. I told this before. I'm sure I shared this with you before. You know, the Hasidic masters said this line, and until I told my wife, she would never let me go. He says, if it wasn't in the Ten Commandments that a person should take a nap Erev Shabbos, it should have been in the Ten Commandments. Mm-hmm. It was so important for them to take a nap Erev Shabbos. And even if you can't, because the day's short and you're busy, 10 minutes, you lie down, you close your eyes. Make like you're dead. You go possum Erev Shabbos.
Get the 1/60th of death.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Okay, you work like a dog for the needs of Shabbos. right? And then plots. Okay? Maybe we can, only with the help of the Baal Shem Tov and the Hasidic masters, that would save us from this grave smacking. Sounds like a plan? I try it every Shabbos. My wife was getting annoyed at me because I said, it says it in the book! It says it in the book!
That's Erev Shabbos.
She was like, Erev Shabbos, before Shabbos. Everybody can sleep Shabbos.
Yeah.
She's like, the women luck out because they could just light their candles and, right? We have to go to shul, we have to daven, and it's like, I'm falling on my face. I know some guys, Yisachar Granitsky, he's davening, and sometimes in the shul, he'd fall asleep while davening. In the middle of davening, and he opens his eyes, everybody's gone! Like, where, right?
Now, wait a minute.
Passed out in shul.
You said Erev Shabbos, but once you said Kiddush.
Friday afternoon before Shabbos, not Erev Shabbos, Shabbos night.
You said she could light her candles and then plots. So she
Women
does-
light their candles. I know my wife lights her candles and plots.
But
plots.
it's already Shabbos.
That's right.
That's right. Doesn't count. Men have to. Forget about it. What I just forget. About it. Just let's erase that. Okay. Okay. She also does the thing. Once I told her 10 minutes. Just close your eyes. 10 minutes. Do some breathing. Make like you're dead. Okay. And do it. Okay. In any case. Okay. So in any case, that could be like a sidestep around grave smacking. Sorry for that total digression. Okay. All right. Now I forgot where I was. Okay, like the Holy One, blessed be He. However, I'm still in that first paragraph, 3 lines from the end of that paragraph. The Holy One, blessed be, however, is not affected by the change of this world, from summer to winter, from day to night, as it is written. Even the darkness does not obscure for you, and the night shines like day. For He is not grasped within the worlds at all, even though He fills them. In other words, He's completely not affected. It's not like our soul and our body. Our soul becomes affected by the body. Okay? God is filling worlds, but He's completely not affected by it. Okay? Kind of not too hard to understand. Okay? And this is also, you have a question.
Yeah, I don't grasp that concept.
Okay.
Because in Torah, time after time, it says when we do something, God reacts.
Okay, He reacts to us based on our actions. Okay?
Correct.
But that He's not affected by it. Okay?
Well,
now, there is certain phrases you'll see in the Chumash. Vayitzat save Elibo. He becomes saddened in his heart.
Right,
Okay.
or angry, or whatever the case may be.
And I agree with you.
Those are metaphors?
That's the Shekhinah, that's the divine presence, and that's the buffer that he kind of speaks about. There's got to be a buffer zone. But we're talking about here his essence. His essence, the essence of this unknowable isness, which is present, surrounding and filling, okay, is not at all affected by what we do. He will, because of the rule of Hashgacha, providence, and how to build us to be the vessels that we need to become. He has to go ahead and make moves, counter moves, in order to get us to the destination. Okay? We move this way, He's got to block this. We want to go that way, He's got to block that. If we find favor in His eyes, in order for us to get to the destination.
You have to define that as Shekhinah.
I define that as the Shekhinah, the divine
and not
presence.
necessarily His
No,
essence.
not the essence. No. The essence cannot be affected. That's what it's talking about. The essence of God we cannot touch. Yeah.
You're making me think of Shlomo HaMelech when he dedicated the temple and he said, the heaven and the heaven of heavens cannot contain you.
Right.
How much less this house that I have built.
Right. Okay. Nobody can contain the essence of all there is. No one. Nothing. Not a mind. No thought can grasp you. The essence of you.
Not
But
even-
the idea really is that we're getting to is it's there. It's here. Okay. It's outside or before the tzimtzum, and it is within the tzimtzum. What is the tzimtzum? I have to just digress just for a second here, because in terms of He's going to give us a play-by-play run of filling and surrounding worlds, but we have to understand something. And Rabbi Yehuda Leib Ashlag got to it in one kind of question answer, and then God willing we'll maybe move to that maybe after this segment. To some of his writings, because they're amazing. He says, what did God, if he was all thing and everything was contained in him, what did he make that was outside of him that we are able to enjoy this existence? What was, in other words, if God is all things and there's nothing outside of God, what did he make that's not part of him? We like a rock that he cannot lift, right? What did he make that's outside of him that wasn't part of him, that could be a creation? Don't forget, this creation that we're experiencing is something that is to some degree not part of him. What did he make? What is it? Has anybody ever remember? I've gone over this in some classes before.
It's like the blooming of his will. Just
in a certain sense, but it has to be something that he didn't wasn't part of him. How can it be? He's everything. There's not. How can it be something that's not part of him that he made? That creation can have an existence. It's kind of bizarre. He's everything. What could be? So he says it two words. Two words. Ratzon l'kabel. That's it. Will to receive. Will to receive. Because why? He's only Ratzon l'hashpia. Will to bestow. There's nothing about him which is a will to receive at all. There's no will to receive at all. That is not contained in his hard drive, soft drive, whatever you want to call it. There's nothing. So he had to make something, because don't forget, it went upon his simple will to bestow. Right? Instantly had to be created something that has a will to receive. All of creation, if you can boil it down to the atoms of all of existence that came something from nothing, is all created from this will to receive. Okay? Now, the idea here is for us to be able to turn over, because we're stuck with it. You are stuck with this will to receive. Now, Sovev Kol Almin, surrounding the worlds, is all Ratzon Lahashpia. If you would to be able to, in your consciousness level, to venture out to there, you would cease to exist. Okay? Which some people might like to do that, but I don't think it's not a good idea. Because God doesn't want you to cease to exist. God wants you to maintain your will to receive, but it has to be a will to receive in the right way. In order to give. There's two kinds of will to receive. There's a will to receive for me, the selfish, egotistical, self-centered beast that exists in all of us, definitely at early ages, right? Child doesn't know anybody else. The epitome of selfishness, meant to be. But that's one type of will to receive. The other type of will to receive is I'm receiving on the condition that I'm giving through my receiving. I'm receiving on the condition I'm going to receive what you're giving to me, only that I know that I'm giving to you. Right? We bring this parable all the time about the rich man who invites the scholar into his house. They're having a conversation. The rich man really wants to give, but the scholar's going, no. And the rich man is going, until finally the rich man is imploring him. They're having such a great conversation, such a great time. I want to give you. He sees that the rich man is in pain because he's not giving. So finally then the scholar says, okay. The guest says, okay. And the rich man is so happy that he's able to give. So even though now the scholar, who's the guest, is actually receiving, he's actually giving through his receiving. And that's the amazing, the great thing that somebody pointed out to me last week's Parsha, by Rivka. Rivka at the well, right? By the way, chesed is a great thing. You have to learn about very significant idea about chesed, kindness, right? Was, Eliezer said this, prayer. It was chutzpah, okay? Hashem gave in because of Avraham. It was a chutzpah to say that, but Hashem gives in to that kind of chutzpah. Not all the time. Some people didn't get away with it, but he got away with it. The first girl comes down, and I ask her, can I have some drink? And she's got to say, not only you, but your camels also. Right? Right? Now, Rivka, of course, she's into the chesed. She has it in her neshama to give. Now, he didn't ask, can I have, and my camels, right? He just said, I need a drink, right? And she came up with, your camels are probably already thirsty, let me give them too. Chesed is not when you're asked. Kindness is you don't have to be asked. That's real kindness, where you have to perceive with your power of senses what this needs and give. Now, the other part of the chesed was after he gave to her and he was blown away, right? So he brings out the nose rings. Yes, they wore nose rings in those days. And he brings out the bracelets and the nose rings and he gives to her and she takes them. And then afterwards they go into the house and he does the whole deal with the conversation and she agrees to go. And then he takes out gold and silver, right, and gives to her. And then he's got a bag of nuts. He leaves them. I don't know why he just gives them some little, Bomba snacks or something. I don't know. He gives them some snacks. Cookies. Here's the little cookies. Whatever. But the idea was, go read it. You got some almonds. You gave him some almonds. Okay? You guys here, gold and silver for you and you. Some almonds here. I don't want to get into that. It's just kind of like, if you want to impress them, give them, whatever. The idea here is, no, I have to just finish this thought. Because here, the idea here is Eliezer was also testing her if she could receive. Because giving, it's a favor. I'm doing you a favor. I don't want anything in return. You want to be Mr. Big Shot and not take anything in return, okay? That's kind of, in a certain sense, there's an aspect of selfishness in that too. I am only the bestower. There's no exchange. When you do the exchange and you're allowing yourself to receive, to give, that's also a level of giving. In other words, Rebecca had to be able to receive, to give in this way and give in that way. So that's the ultimate idea of giving. Okay? Yes?
I have a question. Now, animals also receive part of Hashem.
Yes.
By being born and breathing. Do they also, I forgot the question. What I was going to ask. Do they also have a will to give, or they just receive?
Dogs kind of give. I don't know about dogs.
Yeah,
They
dogs.
give all their heart. It's called lay, but yet dogs' language is hav, which means give.
Yeah.
So, I'm not clear on
They
but
live to please the master. That's
They
their
do.
purpose.
They do.
A pet. They
How about-
live.
So, but
Animals that are not
listen, they have a
domesticated.
fight or flight tendency. There's some I read in one book, they do have a certain kind of a level of a ruach about them, a spirit about them.
And animals that are not domesticated, like lions?
It's fight or flight. It's you're my lunch, or
Right.
or So, in any case, but everything is full of ratzon lekabel.
Mm-hmm.
Our job is to take our ratzon lekabel, our will to receive for ourselves alone, and convert it into, I only want to receive this unbelievable abundance from you, God, only on the condition that you get the credit for it, that I'm able to bless and praise and thank you in the eyes of all of humanity, and all of humanity should be able to receive your infinite abundance, only on the condition that you are being fully expressed, that we have the merit, the opportunity to be able to be a vehicle for your infinite expression. We're all in the process of becoming this, a vessel to only be a vehicle for God's infinite expression. We don't want our own expression. It's all part of God's expression, if it's infinite expression. So we're going to receive infinite abundance, but not for ourselves alone, but only so that we can be a reflection of God's infinite expression. Make sense? More or less?
And it's a gradual process.
It's well, we're all in the process.
Mm-hmm.
You can jump to it. We're trying to get to the fast cut, the red pill here, okay? All right, let's go on. And this is also the meaning of he encompasses all worlds. For example, when a man reflects upon an intellectual subject in his mind, or upon a physical matter in his thoughts, then his intellect and thought encompass that subject, whose image is formed in his thought or in his mind, but they do not encompass that subject in actual fact. Okay, like he gives an example of a chair, right? If you want to think of a chair, you want to conceptualize a chair in your mind can be engrossed in thinking and visualizing a chair. So that's kind of surrounding it, but it's not physically surrounding it. You're not physically surrounding the chair over there. The chair is still over there, right? So I'm not surrounding the chair. In my mind, I'm surrounding it, but not physically surrounding it, okay? The Holy One, blessed be, however, of whom it is written, for my thoughts are not your thoughts. His thought and knowledge of all created beings actually encompass each and every creature, for his knowledge is indeed its life force, and that which brings it into existence from nothingness into being in actual reality. Okay? So, encompasses all worlds is an actuality. Okay? He surrounds everything. It's not just a mindset that he's out there with his mind surrounding everything. Okay? And he fills all worlds. That encompasses all worlds. He fills all worlds is the life force which clothes itself within the created being. Within the created being. This is very important. It is powerfully contracted within it, according to the intrinsic nature of the created being, which is finite and limited in quantity and quality. Yeah.
So it's like when in our mind we picture a chair, the form of a chair. We can know it only externally, but God knows it from the outside of it, and he knows it from inside the chair.
Absolutely,
outwards.
yes. And us, created beings, being us too, okay? It's a very important idea here. Okay?
So we're filled with divinity.
Yes. Yes. Okay, as for example, now the question is, we're chelek elokam mima'al, which is also a classic Hasidic concept. We are a portion of God on high. It says chelek elokah mima'al. What does that mean? So they use the figurative, they use the imagery of God. God carved part of himself to form the soul of man. Now, what did God use to carve that? Where did he get an axe from? A chisel. Where did he get that? Ratzon the Kabel. It's all conceptual. The Tzimtzum is conceptual. Okay? As soon as we adopt the Ratzon HaShpia, okay, a will only to bestow, okay, we become that God-like self, and we are able to be beyond the will to receive, but we need the will to receive. You gotta need that. In order to remain a creation, and God wants us to remain a creation, you gotta have a sliver of that will to receive. Okay? It's gotta be fixed, but it has to have it, because that distinguishes a creation from being zapping back into the light of the infinite. We don't want to zap back into the light of the infinite. We do conceptually, but only because to have a connection. But we need to maintain ourselves as a creation. Just buckle your seatbelt, folks, okay? You need to stay a creation, okay? Don't zap into the infinite light too fast, because we want to be here to be a vehicle for God's infinite expression, okay? You have a question?
Yes, it's kind of like an oscillation between the will to bestow and the will to receive. Like
yes,
just like vibrates.
Well, you convert your will to receive on the condition that you're receiving only that you're giving God the glory, giving God the kavod, giving God the ability to express himself in this world, right? To have an infinite expression in this physical world. That's unbelievable. What an opportunity. What a gift. Okay, let me just finish this paragraph, and then we have to go on to finish from the Nefesh HaChaim and the Baal Shem Tov. Okay, okay. So he says here, I'm just got to look at the time. He fills all worlds.
Okay.
I'm going to go for that one line again. And he fills all worlds as the life force which clothes itself within the created being. It is powerfully contracted within it according to the intrinsic nature of the created being, which is finite and limited in quantity and quality. So he gets into quality and quantity, okay, and everything has its limitations. Even the sun has its limitations. Every single thing in creation has its limitations, no matter how big or expansive it seems to be. Okay? That's the bottom line. So you have to go back to get these concepts. Surrounds all worlds, fills all worlds. Okay? So the Nefesh HaChaim also talks about that. What is the Nefesh HaChaim? Reb Chaim Volozhin. We spoke a little bit in the beginning part of the class about the Misnagdim, led by the Vilna Gaon. Okay, his main student was Chaim Volozhin, who wrote a book called Nefesh HaChaim, which this literally means the soul of life. How do they translate it? They don't translate it. Nefesh HaChaim, the living soul. Okay, yeah, because it wouldn't jive to say the living soul. People would like, what is that? Okay, so in any case, there's a little abridged here, a little version where he talks about this idea of surrounding soul, about the sovev and malay, right? Surrounding and filling. Okay?
His
So
name is
Chaim Volozhin. So, he goes through all of the ideas and the concept of surrounding and filling. But he ends like this, okay? We are permitted to reflect only on the things that were revealed and which we are able to grasp as seen from our vantage point, where Hashem surrounds all worlds, meaning he transcends the world and is outside the world. It's a very literal style of understanding of the contraction. In other words, when he fills all worlds, he says it in another place, we can't understand that. We can't grasp it. We can't grasp how Hashem is filling. We can't. It's beyond us. We're going to stick to the surrounding part, okay? That he surrounds. Because we can't grasp this idea of filling, okay? This is what he says, okay? He transcends the world as outside the world because he confined his glory, making room for the physical world to come into existence with its forces and new creatures. Therefore, it is our duty to know and firmly etch in our consciousness the reality of creation as it relates to the halacha, which is very important. You have to know what to do is right. And this is the foundation of our faith and the basis of the Torah. So he brings basically the idea here, his attitude is that we're going to only deal with Sovev Kol Almin. We don't deal with Malay Kol Almin. And that is a very huge difference between the Hasidim and the Misnagdim in terms of how do you relate to God. And you'll see Misnagdim, and I've totally shared this with you before, and if I wouldn't be able to say it if Rabbi Moshe Weinberger didn't say it. You'll see Misnagdim, if you'll ever find any of them, they have a little cold edge around them. As opposed to Hasidim, they know God fills them. They know God is everywhere. And they come out with the way they relate to God as God is within them and without them. God is everywhere. And they feel that connection, which is a deeper connection of filling. So the way they relate to God and the universe comes from a very deeper place. Okay? As opposed to the Masnagdim, God is out there. So we got to pray, we got to scream, we got to reach, and maybe we'll reach, and maybe we'll get to, and maybe we'll, right? So instead of within, filling all worlds, they don't relate. They can't. As soon as you'll talk to them about something mystical about the soul, they'll come glossy-eyed, and they'll be like a blanket stare, because they'll go into like a safety mode, and they'll go into safety mode because like they're pre-programmed not to relate to anything spiritual. Halacha is important. You have to know halacha. You must do halacha. It's very, very important. But then we have to get into the spirit. And if the spirit they think is way out there and not here, how is that going to affect their relationship? It ends up being cold. It's cold and it's distant. And as much as you can meet a warm Nisnagdid, and you can, and there are, I'm not saying all Nisnagdim, but there's a cold little edge. But when I talk to other people who are Hasidim, there's just a connection. It's just so warm. That's my own personal thing. You can go ahead and try it yourself and come back to me and go, Rabbi, you are so wrong, and I'm okay with that. Okay, now. Just to end off, okay, with the Baal Shem Tov, okay, because don't forget this Misnagdim, God's out there. We can relate to that. He told us a halacha. Gotta keep doing what the halacha is, right?
So when you said we can't understand filling, you're speaking about the Mignogdic attitude.
They can't. The Chaim Voloshin says we can't relate. We can't understand it, so it's beyond us. So we're not dealing with it.
Oh, but that's
Move on to surrounding all worlds. That we can deal with. He's beyond, but we can't deal with this. Scary, but it's real. Yeah.
The thing that helps me to understand the idea of the within is like the watering of Gan Eden, where it just came up through the ground into all the trees. It's like God is watering all creation, just coming up through the ground.
That's nice. I like that imagery. Thank you for that. Okay. Let me just go here. You know, the Baal Shem Tov was 5 when his father passed away, and he was 6 when his mother passed away. His mother passed away like a year after, I think, his father. Right? He was orphaned at 6 years old from both his parents. Put into Malamed. He was the people. There were some people in the town who were willing to have him stay at the teacher's house, the Malamed, the teacher. So he stayed with the teacher and he learned there, and he was grasping everything. And he would, of course, in the time off, what would he do? Right? He wasn't doing what the other boys do. Right? Which was who knows what. Okay, playing marbles, I guess, if they had marbles, you know. So here, not only was the one-room house small and unclean, but the Malamed treated the children kind of harshly, and his wife added to the disorder by her own yelling at the students, who were less than studious and sometimes even impudent. What does impudent mean?
rude.
Chutzpah. Okay, so being indoors all the time also depressed Israel. Israel is his name, the Baal Shem Tov, Israel ben Rabbi Eliezer. And the Malamed's rote teaching was so different from the sparks of fire that he had seen emanate from his father's holy mouth, when his father had taught him the Torah. Israel felt freer when he was outside in the open air, as he walked through the woods, pondering the teachings and stories of the Torah and the Talmud. While among the trees and grasses, he also meditated on the presence of God, as his father had taught him. Don't forget, his father told him 4 things before he died. Okay? On his father's deathbed, he says, 1, don't be afraid of anybody or anything. Period. You have only awe of God. Right? 2, I think, what was number 2? Was God is always with you. Period. Always. He's with you. 3, don't you study Torah, but don't be like, but keep it hidden. Don't let people think you're a complete ignoramus. And he was good at that too. Okay? Right?
Yeah.
Right? Right? And what was the 4th thing? Sorry. And the 4th thing was, make sure you love every single Jew with a great, great love. Right? 4 things. Okay? So, in any case, he remembered what his father had taught him. He considered how each created thing, whether a blade of grass, a leaf, a flower, or a stone, is kept in existence every moment by God's will. And were his will removed, it would immediately disappear. There is nothing but God. This is what he repeated aloud countless times. Ein od milvado. God is all there is. And he frequently uttered a mystic verse that his father had taught him. He fills all worlds and surrounds all worlds. And there is no place where he is not present. Okay, so he meditate on that. He fills all worlds. He surrounds all worlds. There's no place where he is not. Okay? The pious boy constantly reminded himself that God created everything only for the good of his creatures, and especially for his people Israel. Often, in the intensity of his meditation, young Israel felt, when he was looking at the world around him, that he was looking at God, and God was looking at him. He felt the comforting presence of his heavenly Father very close to him then. He believed with complete faith that God was watching over and caring for him and would protect him from any harm. When he encountered anything frightening, he uttered the psalm verse his father had taught him for such situations. Vayafutzu avonosecha mipanecha. Let all the workers of iniquity be scattered. Okay, it was a very important phrase. You should always learn that. He was actually Vayafutzu avonosecha mipanecha. May all of your what?
Isn't that when we take
No, that's different.
Vayafutzu?
That could you're right. Now I'm confused. Okay, this is from Psalm. That was from this Tehillim. That was from the verse in Numbers. That one, that verse that you're saying. This is a different one.
Just a
And
different.
Psalm
This is a different one.
which-
Whereas other children were afraid of the forest that surrounded the town, which has bears and wolves and even demons. They roamed. Israel was fearless. Sometimes he even slept in the fields or in the woods, and trusting in God, no harm would ever come to him. Okay? There was actually a time where he was walking in the forest, and it was nighttime, and he saw this strange light. He's thinking, what's going on there? And he saw a little house, this funky light coming from the house. And he walked in the house, and there was sitting all around were all these demons, talking amongst themselves, right? Boasting about all the people that they harmed and tricked that day, right? And they looked at him and they go, oh, Jew boy. Right? Right? What you doing here, Jew boy? Right? And he uttered this verse, Vayafutzu avonosecha mipanecha. Boom! And all of a sudden, boom! Everything was gone. Right? He was alone in the forest. Okay? So in any case, little Israel prayed often with intense fervor, even as a boy. The Spirit of God rested on him, and he yearned to pour out his soul before his Creator. He spoke to God as if he were speaking to his own Father, for he fully believed that God, blessed be He, was actually present with him, by him, near him. Okay? But following his father's instructions, he hid his piety from people. Because of that, to others he appeared wayward. Usually he would study for a few days with his teacher, but afterward he would run away from school and go out to the forest. I think your child is OCD, or maybe he needs some
ADHD.
medicine. What do you get? ADHD? Because his attention span is really not so good. Right? So
Or
we
is
need
it
some
excellent?
meds for him. Right? So in any case, some of those biggest rabbis, they had all of that. And they became the biggest rabbis because they left the cheder. Okay? In any case, the idea here is Baruch Hashem. We have this Baal Shem Tov and his teaching that God is within us, without us. And we can relate so close, Baruch Hashem. And he's so close to us. And we can walk around with that all day long. Okay? So Vev kol alamin, memale kol alamin. He surrounds all worlds, he fills all worlds. End. Okay.